One other aspect of this, and we need to confirm where he's being held, and I don't have his name off the top of my head. There's a confidential informant in the Caitlin Kaufman case who actually was the one that came forward and turned over the gun, collected the reward money. My understanding is since then he's been arrested and is incarcerated, but he very likely is going to be, testifying in this case. So you have him in your system with these two defendants. Is that a concern?
Major problem. Well, that is the concern that we always have, is when that happens, there is a code in jails and prisons about, working to help put someone else in jail or prison is not viewed in a positive light by a lot of folks. And so inside the system. And so once that's publicly known and you have two of the defendants who are going to be, if I understand the whole situation, he's testifying against them or giving information against them, then his protection is critical. We have to know that. Sometimes you get guys, especially men, who think they don't need the protection. So what? We're going to do it anyway. Meaning isolate you, we will take you away.
Well, you realize, that's on you. If something were to happen to him, that really damages the case. Can you imagine that? He's basically the ace witness.
Right. And I told my story a minute ago, but I remember this guy having to walk back in there all beat up, and it was like the judge, I won't ever forget, the judge was furious, and and again, but the reality of it is we owe. I mean, I don't care who does what to who. Our job is to protect you from yourself and from other inmates and from the public, and sometimes the public wants you dead, sometimes inmates want you dead, and sometimes you want yourself dead, and we can't let any of that happen. So it's a bizarre challenge to keep people, and I tell people this a lot that don't know much about the system, they're not called Nick Beres and Daron Hall. It's 12 toes and 8 ball and 2 fingers and all that. And so when you're trying to protect them from each other and you say, who are your incompatibles or who are your enemies, they give us all these nicknames.
So you have to figure all that out.
And then you're trying to sort you from these nicknames. How do you know who that is?
All right, real quick, I wanted to ask you this too, by the way. There was a story this morning just talking about major departments, police or sheriff's departments in LA County, other major cities, that just the number of applications just way down in the tank. And when you were last on, and I know you did the innovative move of maybe hiring part-timers, and it's worked out. How would you say your ranks are right now? The status of the number of people hired, has it gone? It sounds like your department's bucking the trend in some ways.
Yeah, Nick, I met yesterday. I'm a nerd with this kind of stuff, and we've been working extremely hard on this. I mean, we graduated 41 people last week in a graduation class. I've been here 30 years, we've never had that number. So we've gone from 6, I'm using our low end, but 6 to 7 to 10 people where we thought, do we even have a graduation? Do we even do this? To graduating 41 people that was 8 weeks of training they completed. Now they're out in the field working full time.
Before this happened, I mean, how big a deal is this?
Huge. And so on top of that moving in a pretty good way, we have a new class starting in January, which is normal schedule. We're at 30 something already, going back into that number. We have 89 people today working in this model that I was described with on here. 89 people are what you and I call them part-timers, but the way it's working. So 89 people on top of these other full-timers that are coming in here. And I'm not saying we're fat and happy, but we are ahead of anybody I know in trying to get our heads around staffing.
That's awesome, because I remember when you said, it's interesting, I talked to James Small with FOP, and I mentioned what you had done, and he thinks that's great, but he just goes, I'm not sure the part-time thing would work as easily for us. I know we talked about it, and you thought maybe they could. And then you've even conceded there's a certain degree of training beyond for the patrol officers, and so he wasn't sure that would work as well for them. They're not having the same opportunity that you are to bring in that many new folks, even though I think they've got more cadets.
I bet he's partially right. I think the thing, and I've not talked to him, I know James well, but here's the thing that we got hung up on for a year, was that training is hard to accomplish if you think of it as you can only work on part-time each week. And what I was telling you, we kept pushing on that, and come to find out, it's not 19 hours a week that you can work. It's over a year's time. You cannot average more than that. So let's just say they send you to a full-time police training program for 6 months. They can do it 40 hours a week. And, I mean, there's no reason you can't. You do not owe that person benefits to do that. You owe them benefits after a year if it's over 19 and a half hours.
Okay. So you think the model could work on various levels?
I mean, there's no doubt about it. I'm not saying it's their solution. I mean, as I leave here, we have Austin, Texas, who's coming here to see our behavioral care center and other things. They have like a whole delegation, 14 of them. The sheriff's coming, the mayor or the county commissioners, all sorts of leadership. But the sheriff had called me and we were talking about this trip. This has been 6 weeks ago, and she goes, I'd like to pick your brain on a couple other issues we're having down here. And what about the hiring? And I went to this whole thing, and she goes, forget mental health. I'll see you when I get there. I mean, it was it's a female sheriff, and she goes, I can't wait to hear about this, because in our jobs, mental health's huge, but if you don't have people, you can't do this job. And so we are aggressively working at it. I met yesterday for 2 hours with our leadership that handles all this with us, and I go through the numbers every week, and we're moving the needle. And
how many do you think again? How many?
With 89 people.
89
that
people
are what you call part-time.
And you have how many staffers? How much?
600 of officers.
And do you think, or deputies or officers?
Yes, I'd say officers.
And so are you up to capacity? Or
so we were at 200 vacancies when I was on here desperately, what is that, a year ago?
Yeah.
And so we're at 200 vacancies. Today we're at 120 vacancies, down by 80. But here's what is not in that number. 120 vacancies, but I've got 89 people that are plugging some of those vacancies that aren't counted because they're not full-time. You see what I'm saying? So we're almost
back to
it's not apples for apples. But Nick, the more important thing, the fascinating part is, it's a numbers game. It is, but when you I sit around a table called a focus group with these people that are doing this part-time work, and when you look at them and you listen and you ask them questions, it's what I've been reading for years. I don't want full-time work. I'd love to come work a couple shifts. I also cut hair. I have a baby. I don't want to be I'm taking classes at Vanderbilt. I mean, we've got every kind of person in the world in this room, and I said, what brought you here? I like the dollars, paying me more. I don't need benefits. My wife is whatever. My husband's this. I don't want full-time work. I want flexibility. That word is used by every person in the room. And you look around, and by the way, and it's what I've been reading.
And how much are they making now?
$35 an hour.
$35 an hour, and if they were full-time with benefits,
$22 an hour.
22?
Yeah.
Big difference. Take a quick call from James. Wow. Okay. James, good morning. Hey, James.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning, James. What's on your mind? Sorry, we wanted to get to you real quick here.
Yes, I wanted to ask the sheriff about the service and process. Can his officers wear body cams? Because, it's always they worry versus another person worried about them serving that service and process, so we'll feel like they're doing their job, especially when we pay for this.
Oh,
wow,
that's interesting.
That's a great question, by the way.
You guys serve warrants. That's maybe the most dangerous thing your deputies do, serving a warrant. And so, you don't have body cams like the Metro PD?
It's a great question, though, and I've known this was coming, and we've said all along.
Got about a couple minutes.
Okay. Yeah, we said all along we wanted the police system to kind of work out the kinks, because it's very expensive to redact and do all that work. So once all that system is built, which I think is virtually there, we need to decide where in the sheriff's office do the cameras go. He's talking about our warrant division. We serve 200,000 of those civil documents a year. We're not arresting people, but we're exchanging paperwork for the courts. I think that's an option for sure. Do we ever put them on everyone working in the jails? Probably not. There's a lot of privacy issues with showers, and imagine we're living in there with them. But you may wear them eventually somewhere. We do booking. I think that would be an ideal place where the police hand them off to us. We need that video camera so it doesn't shut off. I think it's the next phase of the government to do that. I'm for it completely. We have cameras. We have 600 cameras in our building already. Thank God. Ask Alex Friedman how that worked out.
Right.
That whole thing needs to be videoed. But so he's right on. But it's just not. Let's put everybody in them. Let's figure out where they need them. He said it. He's paying the staff to do this job as a taxpayer. We should be sure that they're doing their job right. I'm all for it. But it is a huge dive into the pool, because you got to figure out who's going to do the redacting, who does all the releasing.
Yeah.
Can we use the police system to do ours, which I think would be helpful, because we're nowhere near as big as they are.
Right.
So I think that would be the partnership. Could we come up with a way to say, we'll do the camera systems, but will you do the video management system, which is a huge piece.
That's awesome. All right, listen, just with a minute to go, let's go back to the last minute toy store. We can throw up the graphics again. Yep. You'll be out there, right?
Yes.
You're going to be wearing a Santa hat?
I'm sure you'll be wearing something. I'm
going to be wearing a sweater and all that.
I'm wearing something warm. It's usually cold.
It is kind of cold. Yeah. Some of the volunteers, and this is where you can sign up to get on the list to get the toys.
If you have need, please go on Last Minute Toy Store beginning on the 1st of December and sign up. We want to make sure you get that, and they will then give you the date to come shop.
And it literally is, because the store runs from the 16th to the 19th.
Yes.
And a lot of it's indoors, but then outdoors, the volunteers, depending on what you sign up for, you're going to go back and forth maybe. maybe, or something like
Yes.
that.
Please, and call the sheriff's office if you need any help on any of this. But Last Minute Toy Store is the website to get to get signed up.
And you think thousands of people will be going through there?
Thousands of people. A lot of kids are going to have a much better holiday. Can't wait.
That is just awesome. Again, the information up there on donations always accepted. Again, the location of the toy store is
5117 Harding Place. It's out there by the airport, right there behind the South Precinct. Exactly behind the South Precinct.
Behind the precinct there, and that was where there was that warehouse that was there that was just sitting, and it's a perfect setup for this.
Yes, I can't wait.
Absolutely perfect setup. Sheriff, as always, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for
Have a
being
Merry Christmas. I'll see you out there for this, and I hope a lot of people take part in it, and it should be a good year.
Looking forward to
Good
it.
holiday.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you again.
Appreciate it.
Take a break. Be back with Programming Note right after this.